Kadosh Boker Or Masechet Kiddushin Daf Amud Aleph. Yesterday we were speaking about, and we just finished, because we were talking about the etrog, that the etrog is Shavel Ilan. The etrog is equal to a tree in three different fashions. And therefore we asked, why does it say the word that it's Shlosha Derachim? Why didn't we say Shlosha Devarim? Just like we have Al Shlosha Devarim Ha'olam Omed. So why do we say Derachim? Say Devarim. And therefore there's no problem. So we answered that since afterwards we went and we said that the etrog is shaveh, right, to the yerek, the derech echad. And why did it have to use the terminology derech? Because over there it had to use the terminology derech to darke de etrog ki yerek. What does that mean? That it's like a vegetable. What does it mean it's like a vegetable? That just like a vegetable is going to be ligadel al kol mayim, it's going to be grown on any type of water. It doesn't matter where the water came from. It doesn't matter what type of water, whether it could be me'geshamim, it could be me'ashkaya. The trees, right? What do we learn in Kiddush Masechta? The trees needs what type of water? Hard rain. Right? Very good. What does that mean? Trees are not like any other type of thing. Trees need hard rain. Right? We said dita razia. You remember we said razia or dita, right? What does that mean? Do you need soft rain or hard rain? So the trees, they need hard rain. Here, vegetables, any type of water. Doesn't matter where it comes from. Rainwater, the other huh? No, we said that we're comparing it. So if we said that etrog is shaveh la'ilan b'shalosh halachot, right? We said shlosha dvarim, orla, rivai, neta rivai, and shvi'it, meaning like this, a veg, right? The kodem called to do with orla. The first 3 years, you're not allowed to eat from a fruit tree. You're allowed to eat from a vegetable. If I make cucumbers, even though the first year I could eat from the cucumbers, tomatoes, anything that you want. What can I not eat from? A fruit tree. So the etrog is considered like a fruit tree that there's isur of an orla. Then afterwards you have netarevai, the fourth year. The fourth year is going to be kodesh, right? That you're also going to have kiddushat shvi'it, right? Not like the vegetables. Now, to do with the concept of, those are 3 ways that where's the Kiddush there? Because there's a fruit anyway. Right? When we're going to now come and say that we're talking about now that it's going to be shaveh to the vegetable in one way, just like vegetables that grow on any type of water, so too the etrog grows on any type of water. And therefore, just like beshat lekitato zeisuro, meaning when you come and you pluck it off, that's when you take off the maaser. That's to do with the type of a vegetable, right? So therefore, the same thing with the etrog, right? Bishat lekitato is the time of the maaser, okay? Which means that's when you're going to come and take off the maaser. So he comes and he says, so therefore, that's how it's compared to an etrog. So since we wanted to say derech, because again, darko ligadel alamayim, the way that it, so therefore, just like by etrog, we wanted to say derech echad. And why do we specifically say derech echad and not davar echad, right? Because it's the derech ligadel alamayim, the way how it grows on the water. So therefore, we also said shlosha derachim, and we didn't say devarim, because since we want to say derech echad, so shlosha derachim. Why do we have to say derech echad? It's darko ligadel alamayim. So that's the reason why by etrog we use also terminology of derachim and not devarim. That's how we finished yesterday. That was how we finished off yesterday's daf. We are now 4 lines down on the third last word, veha ditnan. Okay, now again, we're going to be bringing down other places where we learned the lashon of derech in the Mishnayot. The Mishnah over there also comes and brings down veha ditnan, that which we learned in a Mishnah, right? That the Mishnah comes and it says as follows. This is the Mishnah Bikurim comes and it says, a koi. Now, if you remember the koi, we don't actually have terminology. What is the koi? Because it basically it's we don't know what it is, domestic or wild. Basically, that's what it is. It's whether it's a breed of the wild or the domesticated animal, and therefore he comes and he says. So we have that doubt. So there's many different shittot what to do with it. So it says over here like this: that which we learned in Mishnah, koi yesh bo derachim shaveh lachaya, yesh bo derachim. We also use the same terminology, derachim. We didn't use devarim. Why do we use devarim? What? Why do we use the derachim always? No. So the same thing. So he comes and he says, "V'yesh bo derachim shaveh lechaya ve'lebehema." Right? So therefore, we have to understand. Some things, it's like a chaya. Some things, it's like a behema. And some things, it's like both. So what's going on here? V'yesh bo derachim she'en shaveh lo, and some things, neither or. So what's going on? So says the Gemara, there also need to need dvarim. Why don't we also learn dvarim? Why are we coming and saying derachim? Okay, so when we come and we say that it's like a chaya, it's ton kisui adam. We know that when you cover the blood of an animal, only of a wild animal, not of a domesticated animal. Meaning, if you go to a shechita house and they take an animal and they come, they do shechita to a para or whatever it is, you don't do kisui adam. When you do kaparot and it's a chayava off, what do? You come and you do kisui adam. Kisui adam is when you come and you cover the blood. So therefore, the koi has the same halachot as a wild animal that you do kisui adam. There are certain things that it's like an animal. What do you mean like an animal? Chelev is asur like chelev behema. We know that by a chaya, the chelev is permitted, the prohibited fats. By a behema, they're prohibited. By a chaya, it's permitted. So therefore, the koi has certain things which is equal to the behema. What is that? The chelev is going to be prohibited. Certain things that it's like also behema b'chaya. What does it mean that it's going to be like a behema b'chaya? He comes and he says, for example, you need shechita. What does that mean? Fish, grasshoppers, other things, right? Do you need shechita? There's no shechita. But by behema and the chaya, they have a common denominator. What's the common denominator? You need shechita. So to the koi is like a behema v'chaya to do a shechita. Certain things, it's not like any of them. What does that mean? He comes and he says that are you allowed to come and are you allowed to do the intermingling of different animals? So we know that lo tarbiyah kilaim is not only just in clothing, right? It's also in animals. You cannot put the shor v'chamor yachtav, right? You cannot put them together. So the same thing, he comes and he says that usually by you're not allowed to come and, right, the asur larbiyah koim behema ve'asur larbiyah gam im hachaya, right? That means it's not going to be shaveh, not for a chaya, not for a behema, because it's either or. So you can't put them together with the other animal. Why? You can't put it together with a shore because maybe it's like the wild animal. You can't put it together with the chamor because maybe it's like the domesticated. So because of that, we're not sure what it is. You can't put them in there. So therefore, you've got the 4 different cases how the koi is either like a bema, how the koi is either like a chaya, how the koi is either like both, right? The common denominator, you need shechita, or it's not like both because you can't put it with either or. So it's nothing. So for the 4 different halachot by the koi, now in all of them, did you realize it used the terminology derachim? It doesn't say devarim. It says the Gemara, nitni devarim. Why do we learn devarim? The 2, and furthermore, another question. Had the Tanah, that we just learned the Mishnah in Kitin. So we just learned it. We learned Kitin, right? We learned, right, the remedy before the problem, right? Before going to the dentist, you learn how to brush your teeth, and then afterwards you go. Yeah, that's how you do it. You have to get the medicine before getting into the problem. So you first learn Gitin and then Kiddushin. So what happens? There we learned in Gitin, Daf Tet Amud Aleph. It says over there, Zo achat mina derachim sheshavu gite nashim leshichurei avadim. So first of all, we're asking from the Mishnah of the concept of a koi, and then we're asking from another Mishnah from the concept of a get. The get is going to be equal to the what? To the shichrurei avadim, also over there. Nitnu devarim. Why do we say devarim? Why do we say that it's a? Why do we say derech? Say devarim. Okay, and there also that we spoke about the entire concept that if it's going to come from chutz haaretz to Eretz Yisrael, you have to say b'fanai nechtam. Say in front of us it was signed and sealed, right? Signed and written, and therefore you know there was done nishma. So therefore it's going to be. So therefore the question is, what's going on? Now it's very interesting. Did you realize until now, every single time the Gemara brought down one case and then we had to answer it up. Now all of a sudden we had a 2-for-1, right? Because until now we brought down the case of the etrog. Before the etrog, we brought down the case of. Before the etrog was the case of the shiva derachil et hazav, and we answered that one up. Then we brought down the case of the Torah, right? The derech hashel yichuba, which is the Torah. But it's very interesting that now we're bringing down 2 cases in one. The first case to do with the concept of etrog. Second case, we went and we brought down, we answered the one up of the etrog. Now we're bringing down the koi and get. 2 for 1. The Gemara comes and says, right, because of these questions, so he says, you're right. anytime when there's going to be a machloket, that there's going to be certain dinim and other dinim, tani derachim. Anytime there's a machloket, we learn derachim, ways. And anytime that there's no machloket whatsoever, which means it's a one din for everything that we mentioned, tani devarim. Therefore, we came and we learned devarim. So it's mashma from here that whenever you use the terminology devarim and machloket, one second, and machloket, it's only when you use derachim, right? Why? Because when you have derachim, there's many derachim, harbe derachim, right? Lamakom, harbe shluchim lamakom. What do you mean? It's a lot of derachim. So it's a derech. When it's devarim, it's all one davar, right? It's all right. Mishneh Torah. What is Mishneh Torah? It's a chazar every day. It's not. It's all one, right? Same thing. When we're coming and we're saying devarim, there's no machloket, right? When it's going to be derachim, there's going to be machlokot. Tekanami diktani seifa, and that's how you can actually bring it from the seifa. Why do we learn this from the seifa? The seifa said, Rabbi Eliezer says, etrog shaveh lailan lechol davar shemamina. What does that mean? There, we didn't say bechol hadrachim. We said lechol davar. What does that mean? There, in the seifa of that mishnah, etrog, we went and we said that the etrog is shaveh lailan lechol davar. What does it mean? According to Shittat Rabbi Eliezer, selam and shos, the bidiyuk oto davar. Etrog and ilanot. Meaning an etrog is an ilan. Come on, there's nothing what to talk about. And therefore, since it's equal 100%, and there's no machlokot, there's no divisions, you said lechol davar. You use the terminology davar. But once you come and you start saying there's machlokot, meaning that in certain ways it's like one, certain there all of a sudden I have to use the terminology of derech. Not derech. Okay? Until here we're clear. Yeah. Okay? There's the two dots. Minyana dereisha lemiute mai. Usually, when I come and I tell you three, right, or I give you a minyan, I give you a number. So when I give you a number, it means that there might have been others. And I come and I tell you, no, there's three. If I tell you, get me slippers, or I get me something, it could be 10, it could be 15, it could be 20. I didn't give you a number. But if I tell you there's three, right, you're going to come and you're going to see three. If you see four, it means that one of them is not included. And there's a reason why. So maybe those are boots, maybe those are slippers and not shoes, maybe those are whatever it is. So therefore, if I give you a number, the number comes to exclude or to include. So therefore, we're going to have to analyze. So our Mishnah said, Haisha niknet b'shalosh derachim. Yeah, the woman is going to be acquired with three ways. Now remember, we could have said, Al yidei shlosha dvarim. And al yidei shlosha dvarim is kesef shtar ubiyah. We did bring down that biyah is called derech, and because of the biyah, which is called derech, everything else was derech agav brought down also the same, right? The same way. So now the Gemara comes and the Gemara says as follows: Minyana dereisha lemiute mai. What is it coming to exclude? What type of a kinyan is it coming to exclude? What form of acquisition that is it coming to exclude? When I come and tell you why, okay, the same thing says the Gemara. Minyana de seifa lemiute mai. Also the same thing, the minyan of the seifa. The seifa, we said, three ways how to acquire a woman. Kesef shtar biyah, money, document, and relations. How do you not get rid of the woman? How does the woman free herself? Through the two different ways, which is a get or the death of the husband. So therefore, the question is, what does that number also come to exclude or include when it tells us the number two? So the Gemara answers, Minyana de reisha lemiute chuppah. The number at the reisha comes to exclude chuppah. What does that mean? You cannot do kiddushin through chuppah. Chuppah and kiddushin are two different concepts. There are two different halachot. You have chuppah and you have kiddushin. We actually say it. When you're mekadesh a woman, how do you say? Al yidei chuppah vekiddushin. Right? What does that mean? You're doing it through chuppah and the kiddushin. Kiddushin never needed a chuppah. In the olden days, a person would come, see a woman, or even with money. Right? We had to do with the tabat, what to do with the ring, but there was no chuppah. You needed two Jewish witnesses. Come on, man. That's all that you needed. You didn't need anything else. So that was kiddushin. Then we have a beracha. There's a beracha of birkat kiddushin, which technically speaking does not need 10 people. We do a lechatchila with 10 people, right? But again, the concept of the kiddushin, we have a beracha, But technically speaking, you don't need 10 people, right? It's better to have 10 people. You don't need 10 people. Nisu'in, that's for chuppah you need. Chuppah is the second stage of marriage. You have Kiddushin, which is also called Irusin, the first stage of marriage. And then you have the Nisu'in, the marriage, which is called the chuppah. The Nisu'in, which is the second stage of marriage, right? That's when you actually live with her. That's why you have a chuppah. Chuppah is a designated area. The chuppah is a place where it's going to be designated, only them two together. That is called the Nisu'in. So therefore, what he's trying to say is, why do we have number 3 involved in the Reisha? The number 3 involved is Reisha is to teach you that there's only 3 ways to get married to a woman. How are those? Kesef, shtaru, biyah. If you come and you put up a nice chuppah, a nice canopy, or you put the talit and you put whatever you want, you did not do Kiddushin. There's no Kiddushin that's done. You need to do Kiddushin, and then there's Nisuin. Nisuin is a different one. Says the Gemara, Urav Huna de Amar chuppah kona mikal vachomer lemiut emay. Okay, what about according to Shtat Rav Huna? According to Shtat Rav Huna, a person can do Kiddushin through a chuppah. Why? Kal vachomer. He says, 1 second. If chuppah can acquire a woman for Nisuin, right, which means the highest level of marriage, kal vachomer, it can do it for Kiddushin. That is the Shita of Rav Huna. He makes a kal vachomer. So if chuppah does help for Kiddushin, so why do we say 3 then? It's not coming to exclude that, because according to him, it does help. So answers the Gemara, you're right. What is chalipin? It does not help to do chalipin for a woman. You know what chalipin is, right? Let's say, for example, I want to get a chamor. Yeah? So I go to John Jack and I tell him, listen, I want your chamor, right? We're going to do chalipin. What's chalipin? I come and I give you one thing, you give me the other thing. The second that I do, we switch. And what happened, that's called chalipin. It's like a achlafa. We're switching things between each other. So therefore, that's called chalipin. It does not help my woman, which means I cannot come and say, listen, I've got something in my house. Now by doing that, now you're acquired to me, that's acquired to you. No, it doesn't work. Chalipin does not help to acquire a woman. Sal kadaita chamina. I would have thought, right? I would have thought too, right? He comes and he says, I would have thought to say, right, that by a mistake, I would have had a mistake. You know what the mistake is? Yesterday we learned, why is it that we said, how do we know kesef minalan? Yeah, it's a very famous statement. Kesef minalan, right? What does that mean? Sometimes they ask you, what about this? You ask, kesef minalan, how do you know, where are you going to get the money from? But that kesef minalan comes from our Gemara, yesterday's daf. Yesterday's daf, we asked, how do we know bichlal that kesef helps to acquire a woman? And the Gemara answered, kicha miste efron. What does that mean? It says kikach ishisha, when you're going to acquire, kach, right, the gzera shava, and efron, right? What was the efron? Efron, it said over there, right, that Abraham Avinu came and he acquired the field from Efron. When it says there, right, so therefore he says, 400 shekel kesef, he went and he bought it with money. And there it says that he purchased it from Asher Kana Abraham. So therefore it says over there that he acquired it. He made an acquisition. And what does it say over there? It says, Et hakesef kach mimeni. Take from me. So kach, ki kach ishisha. Et hakesef kach mimeni, which means take the money from me. So therefore, kicha mistefron. So I would have made a mistake. I would have thought that since you learn kicha mistefron, I would have thought to say, masadeh. Mikanya bechalipin, afisha nam miken bechalipin, which means I would have thought to say, listen, if you could use money for marrying a woman, use chalipin for marrying a woman. By money, it helps chalipin, right? You want to acquire something, you could help do it through chalipin. So the same thing. Kamash Malan comes to teach you. That's why when it comes to teach you the concept of 3 ways to acquire a woman, the 3 comes to exclude what? It comes to exclude chalipin. Says the Gemara, Ve'imach Hanami. Says the Gemara, well, why? Say the exact opposite. Say that it should help. So answers the Gemara, Chalifin yitnu bepachom mishave pruta. Ve'isha bepachom mishave pruta lo mekanyenaf. What does that mean? 1 second. He comes and he says like this. He says, Chalipin, you could do Chalipin on even something which is less than a shave pruta. Just like you could buy something which is less than a shave pruta. But when you're acquiring a woman, we said that it needed to be how much? Right? That's a machloke between Bet Hillel, Bet Shammai, right? And Rabbi Akiva. Right? What does that mean? We said, does it have to be dinar? Uv shaveh dinar. That was the shita of Bet Shamai. Does it have to be like Bet Hillel, right? Which is going to be Pruta, Ushaveh Pruta. So therefore, since the minimum was the Shaveh Pruta, right, which is the Shita of Bet Hillel, right, and that's how we paskin Shaveh Pruta. So therefore, Chalipin does not help in that. So because of that, that's what he says over here. Chalipin itzniu bepachom Shaveh Pruta. And since by a woman it does not help the Shaveh Pruta, lo mekani nasha, she will never require herself for less than a Shaveh Pruta because it's a ganai. It's something like an embarrassment. What? She's not even Shaveh Pruta? Meaning, even the Shaveh Pruta of nowadays, which is $1 or whatever, even less. Okay, fine. But you're going to come now and tell me that a woman would require herself for less. It's an embarrassment. So because of that, Kinyan Chalipin does not help. We didn't want to come, right? And we did not want to do such a thing, which does help on less than that. I said, even if it's going to be $50.
No, it's not. It's
because
much
we
less.
never allowed to do it.
It's a 4 years of,
we don't want to make a agreement. There's no such thing as coming less.
אבל זה לא סן.
says the Gemara. Minyana de Seifa, Gimel Amubet 3b. Says the Gemara, Minyana de Seifa. What do we need the Minyana de Seifa? Okay, remember that the round brackets we do not read, we only do the square brackets. So says the Gemara, Minyana de Seifa, right? What is it coming to exclude? So he says, Lemiute Chalitza. It's coming to exclude Chalitza. Why? He comes and he says like this. I would have thought to say as a mistake, take the Bikabachom and Yevama. Yevama, how does a Yevama get out of it? A Yevama gets out of it through Chalitza or Mitata Yavam. So he says, my Yevama shene yotza beget. A Yevama does not go out with a get. Right? Yotza b'chalitza, but she does go out with a chalitza. Zo sheyotza beget. This woman that she does go out with a get. Eno din sheyotza b'chalitza. Shouldn't it be the chalitza should help? It's kal v'chomer. Kamashmalan comes teach you that a woman does not go out of her husband, right? Only in these two drachim and not in chalitza.
Why do you bring chalitza? She doesn't have the same status. She didn't go through Kiddushin.
But I would have thought to say that she is able to do a chalitza to get out.
But it's not comparable.
Why not?
When she has Kiddushin with one guy.
You do a kal v'chomer. One more time. In a case of a yivama, how does she get divorced? There's only two ways. Right? Chalitza or the death of the yavam. Okay, here, does get help? No. We did learn midrabanan get helps. Just like Ma'amar helps by yavam, that's midrabanan, but it doesn't really, right? But it's not doraita. So too a get helps midrabanan, but it's not really, she still has to do chalitza, right? But a get does not help. So we're trying to say like this, just like in a case where a get does not help, chalitza does help. So what's stronger, get to chalitza? You're going to tell me chalitza. So I would have thought to say, in a case where she does get a get, chalitza also helps, right? Meaning chalitza doesn't only have to be if the guy dies. Even if the guy doesn't die, he comes, he does chalitza to her, it should help. Kamashmalan, it does not help. That's what we're trying to say. We would have thought a mistake. So says the Gemara, Ve'ima achanami. I would have thought to say in achanami that it does help. And so the Gemara, the Pasuk says, Sefer Keritut. When a person gets divorced, the Katavla Sefer Keritut. What is Sefer Keritut? Sefer Kurta ve'en davar acher kurta. There's only one thing that cuts off. A sefer cuts off. A book cuts off between one thing and another thing, right? That's why you have a sefer. You come and you write things down, and that's dvarim shekurtim. Those are things which are, they cut. Something which is barur, right? When a person wants to come and he wants to say halachot, it's very important that he has a sefer. Why? Because that means you have something barur. You have something which are korret, something which is straight. There's no, if you say things balpeh, it's a very, very big problem, right? Why? Because then you have doubt. The pasuk says, fine, nekuda. Nekudotaim, next two dots. The kesef. We said a woman could be acquired with kesef. Min alan, how do we know that? The two, and furthermore, haditran, we already learned. Ha'av zakai b'bito b'kidushea b'kesef b'shtar b'biyah. Min alan demikneh b'kesef. Right? Kesef ta'avuahu. It says, one second. The Mishnah in Ketubot, right, already says to do with a bat ktana or an ara, a minor or an ara, between 12 and 12 and a half. The father is going to be zoche in the daughter with a kiddushe kesef, the shtar ubibiyah, which means the kesef goes to the father and it belongs to him. And the same thing with the shtar goes to the father, right? And he could even give over his daughter against her will. She's a minor, she doesn't have a will. He could do that. So says the Gemara, how do we know that a woman is going to be acquired through kesef? And how do we know the kesef davuah? How do we know it goes to the father? So Amar Rabbi Yehuda Rav says Rabbi Yehuda Rav. The pasuk says Yatzeh Chinam
And Kasef.
en Kasef. What does that mean? Yatzeh Chinam en Kasef. There in Parashat Mishpatim, it's talking about where a person came and he sold his daughter as an Ama Ivriya. Ama Ivriya is a Jewish maidservant. Remember, the Jewish maidservant is different, right, than the Shivcha Kenanit. The Jewish maidservant has to be designated or to the master or to the son of the master. And then when they get married, she technically did change his status from the Ama Ivriya to now a married woman. And now she's a regular wife. And therefore, he's not allowed to deprive her, whether it's of whether it's of the relations, parnasa, mezonot, food, all the, she has everything. Now, says the Gemara, what happens right now if she became a nara, right? So what happens? Yatzeh chinam in kasef. She goes chinam. What does chinam mean? Without any money. Now, why does it have to say chinam in kasef? If I come and I tell you, this is chinam, do you have to pay for it? Do you have to give me money? I just told you it's chinam. Right? It's free. If it's free, I don't have to say it's free, you don't have to pay. Right? It's free. Well, in kasef. So he says, En kesef la'adon zeh, aval yesh kesef la'adon acher. There's no kesef to the master, but there is another master that you need to give the money to. Who's that? Ha'av, the father. Umaniu, the father. The father gets the money. Okay? So ask the Gemara, ve'ima ledida. Maybe the money goes to her. So says the Gemara, hachi ashta. Do you even think that that's logical? Why? Avia mekabel kiddushea. The father is the one that receives the kiddushin dichtiv. Ebiti natati leishazeh. My daughter I gave to this man, meaning that the father is the one giving over the daughter for kiddushin. Ebiti natati leishazeh. I gave my daughter. Not she went on her own. I gave my daughter to this man. So therefore, the shakal kasman, she's going to take the money. How does it make sense that Kilu, he could give over the daughter's kiddushin, but then she's going to keep the money? No, he keeps the money. So says the Gemara, no, 1 second. Maybe I'm going to say there's only a ketana. Because a ketana does not have a hand to receive kiddushin. Meaning, I would say that's only by a ketana. By a nara, she's already bat mitzvah. She's 12 to 12 and a half. I would say she does have a hand to receive kiddushin. So just like she has a hand to receive kiddushin, she could receive the kiddushin and she gets some money as well. So answers the Gemara, the pasuk says, Binurea betavia. What does that mean? We're talking about Binurea betavia. What does that mean? Kol shevach neurim lavia. Anything that she gets during the time that she's a na'ara goes to the father. That's what it means. Binurea betavia. So says the Gemara, ve'ela hadam Ravuna Marav. But that which Ravuna says the name of Rav, that he says, V'naim shema bat le'av. How do we know that everything the daughter works goes to the father? Shneimar, but it says in a pasuk, v'chim korish et bito le'ama. If a person is going to sell his daughter as a maidservant for an ama, ma'ama ma'aseh yadeh l'rabba, just like an ama, whatever she does goes to the master. And if you have a slave, whatever the slave does goes to the master. So to the bat, nami ma'aseh yadeh l'avia, everything that goes to the right? The master, the father. So he says, Tepu claim minura betavia. He says, 1 second. Why is it that Ravuna Marav has to bring a proof that where do we know that the money that a girl works from the age of 12 to 12 and a half, how do we know that it goes to the father? He brings a proof. Listen, he could sell her as an ama ivriya. So if he could sell her as an ama ivriya, the money goes to him, whatever she makes during this time period. So he says, but why? Just learn from minura betavia. From there, it's called shevach neorim, right? Every shevach neorim, anything which is appreciated, anything which is good that comes to her, should go to the aviyah. Ella, but rather he comes and he says, "Ba'farat nedarim udichtiv." He says this pasuk of right binudei betaviyah is talking about hafarat nedarim, right? You know what hafarat nedarim is, right? There's a concept of hafarat nedarim, right? Davar b'tomato. Yeah, what does that mean? We're talking about hafarat nedarim. And therefore she comes and he could be mefer the neder of his daughter. So hachanami, so too here, so too basically he wants to say that since this pasuk is talking about farat nedarim, so too the entire concept also binurei betavia is not referring to parnasa or money that she's making as a salary. It's not farat nedarim. So you're right. Any farat nedarim he's able to do. Why binurei betavia? She's an ara. He could still do the farat nedarim. So says the Gemara, the chitei manei lef minei. Why don't you learn from farat nedarim? Meaning, if the father can do a farat nedarim, So all the money should also go to the father. Answers the Gemara, Mamona misura yolo yafina. Money is money. Hafarat nedarim is isur. You can't learn money from isurim. Meaning not because the father could do hafarat nedarim, so he gets the money. Right? Because they're not connected. Mamona misura lo yafina. I cannot learn both. Okay, fine, but learn it from knas. What does it mean, knas? If somebody comes and he's me'anes or mefateh a person's daughter when she's a na'ara. Me'anes means that he violates her. Mefateh means he seduces her. Who gets the money of the knas? The father. She's a na'ara. The father gets the money. So answers the Gemara, mamona miknas lo yafinan. We also don't learn mamon from knas, meaning even though the father gets the money, right? Somebody just violated his daughter. She's a na'ara. Goes to him. Somebody just came and they violated, they seduced his daughter. The money, who does the money go to? Goes to him. So, also any money that she makes, she goes out to work, it should go to him. Says the Gemara, mamon mikras, we don't learn mamon mikras. Okay, fine. What about boshut ugam? What does that mean? He says, to do with the onus, right? It goes to the father as well. There's boshut ugam, which means like this. There's a knas, there's a penalty, but then there's boshut ugam. If somebody comes, right, and violates a woman, he has to pay her also the boshet, which is embarrassment, and the begam. That's not knasa, right? That's boshet, that's money. It's like a monetary compensation. So therefore, just like over there, boshet begam goes to the father, so to here also, the money should go to the father. So says the Gemara, shane boshet begam davua shayach begavayu. Part of the boshet and the begam is in the father. Why? The father's embarrassed. Because when somebody came and seduced his daughter and the daughter slept around, so that it's part, the father's part of it. So you can't learn regular that a woman goes out and she makes money by babysitting, right? That it should go to the father from boshet begam. Because boshet begam, the boshet is in him. The begam is also in him, and not only in him, it's also in her, obviously, but it's also in him. He's shayach to it. So if you can't learn regular mammon from boshet begam. So says the Gemara, Ella, but rather, right, when we say v'yatziach hina min kasef, so he says mistabra, it's going to be mistaber, the chikamemaet, yetzia de kavata, daled amud aleph on the top, 481 on the top, yetzia de kavata kamemaet. It's going to be memaet, a yetzia, which is compared to the yetziat of Amai from the house of her father. That means just like the yetziat of Amai is talking about that the kesef is not given to the Adon, that it's not given to the Adon, so to the Yetziyah from the Reshut of her father by the Erusin that we learn from the Diuk, the Kesef of the Kiddushin is given to the Adon Shi Yotzet Imen, which means to the father. So from here we learn the Kesef Kiddushin belongs to the Na'ara, belongs to the father because of Yatseach Hinam and Kesef. Okay? That's what we're actually coming and we're learning.